Saddam Hussein was one of the most controversial and brutal political leaders of the 20th century. Born on April 28, 1937, in a small village near Tikrit, north of Baghdad, Saddam grew up in relative poverty and faced many challenges in his early years. However, his strong will and determination helped him rise to power and become the president of Iraq for more than 20 years. Saddam grew up in a family of sheep herders and was raised by his mother, who struggled to provide for him and his siblings. His father had left the family when Saddam was still very young, leaving them to fend for themselves. Despite the challenges of poverty and hardship, Saddam was a bright student and excelled in his studies, earning him a scholarship to study law in Baghdad. After completing his degree, Saddam became involved in political activism and joined the Ba'ath Party in 1957. The Ba'ath Party espoused a socialist and nationalist ideology and sought to promote Arab unity and overthrow the ruling monarchies in the Middle East. Saddam quickly rose through the ranks of the party and became the Secretary General of the Iraqi Ba'ath Party in 1979. During his early years in politics, Saddam was involved in several failed attempts to overthrow the Iraqi government, which was ruled by a military junta that had come to power in a coup in 1968. In 1979, Saddam finally succeeded in ousting the president Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr and becoming the undisputed head of state and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. After coming to power, Saddam embarked on an ambitious program of modernization and industrialization, with the goal of transforming Iraq into a powerful and prosperous nation. He nationalized many industries, including oil and gas, and invested heavily in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. However, Saddam's rule was also marked by widespread human rights abuses and political repression. He used a variety of methods to maintain control over the population, including torture, imprisonment, and execution. Saddam's regime was notorious for its use of secret police, such as the Mukhabarat, to suppress dissent and maintain order. Another major pillar of Saddam's domestic policy was the promotion of Pan-Arabism, which emphasized the need for Arab unity and solidarity among the states of the Middle East. Saddam saw himself as a champion of this ideology and worked to forge alliances with other Arab leaders, such as Egypt's President Gamal Abdel Nasser and Syria's President Hafez al-Assad. Saddam's foreign policy was marked by a series of conflicts and wars that had a lasting impact on the region. In 1980, Saddam launched an invasion of Iran, hoping to take advantage of the chaos there following the Islamic Revolution. The war lasted for 8 years and left hundreds of thousands dead on both sides. Although Iraq was eventually forced to withdraw, the conflict left Saddam feeling humiliated and bitter. In 1990, Saddam invaded Kuwait, claiming it as part of Iraq's historic territory. The move was widely condemned by the international community, and a coalition of countries led by the United States launched a massive military operation to push Iraqi forces out of Kuwait. The Gulf War lasted for 6 weeks and resulted in the defeat of Saddam's forces. But Saddam managed to hold on to power in Iraq through a combination of brutal repression and propaganda. Saddam's later years in power were marked by increased isolation and hostility from the international community. Iraq was placed under severe economic sanctions by the United Nations, which caused widespread suffering and hardship among the population. Saddam's regime became increasingly corrupt and authoritarian, with many of his closest allies turning against him. In 2003, the United States, backed by a coalition of other countries, launched an invasion of Iraq with the aim of ousting Saddam from power and locating weapons of mass destruction that were believed to be hidden in Iraq. Saddam was forced into hiding, but he was eventually captured by U.S. forces in December 2003. Saddam's subsequent trial and execution were controversial and heavily criticized by many people around the world. Supporters of Saddam saw him as a hero and defender of the Iraqi people, while his critics viewed him as a ruthless dictator and mass murderer. Saddam Hussein's legacy is a complex and divisive one. On one hand, he is remembered by some as a strong and charismatic leader who achieved many successes in modernizing Iraq and promoting Arab unity. On the other hand, his regime was responsible for countless atrocities and human rights abuses, including the use of chemical weapons against civilian populations. So, dear friends, today, Iraq remains a deeply polarized society, with many people still mourning the loss of Saddam's leadership and others seeking to distance themselves from his legacy. However, his brutal rule and the widespread suffering it caused remain a cautionary tale for future generations of leaders in the Middle East and around the world.